Hello together. Today I have the pleasure to speak about web performance. Yuri already did a nice job about introducing myself. Usually I also adding, I'm also part of the community engineering team. So this means I'm responsible for merging and accepting your pull requests. So if you have any feature requests for PWA Studio, I review it or taking a look on it. And also something about Tech Division. We are an agency based in south of Germany. We're providing services in Adobe Commerce and AEM, and I'm part there of development and consulting team. So maybe we see us in some appointment. So I had a situation when a project manager comes to me or a developer comes maybe to you and say, hey, let's do the next project in React. I heard it's so great in terms of performance. Don't get any issues with web performance. And after a couple of sprints, you already get this reaction of your product manager or your customer. What happened to your project? You have a nice accessibility, but really slow performance, and everybody is really unhappy of the situation. So in terms of web performance, we have three main metrics given by Google. And I know this is a really foundational thing here, but I would like to align the audience here with Core Web Vitals. This is only one thing here. So SCP is responsible for largest full content pane. What means that is if you place an image on your site and it's visible in after the header, so in the first section of your browser, it's taking into account for the largest full content pane. What I would like to add here is it also is something what is only relevant in viewport. So if you have an element what is loading outside the viewport, it doesn't affect so much the largest contentful pane. Then we have the metric about cumulative layout shift. So this means you render an element on your page, and this element gets shifted around by a banner or an ad, and it feels really, really ugly if the customer see some text and start already reading with this text, and then the text go moved out from the screen because of some reasons. Then the latest metric is first input delay. This is the time where the browser get a response and start rendering and is enabled to handle interactions from the customer. So this means if you have a blocking JavaScript, what blocks your main time or main thread for a couple of seconds, you will get maybe some first input delay problem here. So these are the three foundational things what you need to take care of. Also, I have on most of my slides some QR codes and reference sources if you want to go deeper in the topic, because I have only a half hour here. And this is a really huge topic. I try to collect every resource what is foundational for this talk with QR codes or with references like sources. So let's get step one further. If we speak about profile, one thing I would like to mention here is about extensions. I set up in my browser different profiles for different purposes. So I have a React performance where I have enabled React developer tools and Apollo. This is for React development. So if I want to test some React code or develop some React code, then I have a profile performance where I don't enable any extension here. So this means I would like to run Lighthouse CLI or some tools without affecting my performance. And there's a really cool study from DebugBear about which Chrome extension affect your browser performance. And this is also visible in if you measure your application. So taking into account, and the third profile is my normal work profile where I have enabled Grammarly. And you see it's already on the second place to affecting your performance. So first of all, if we speak about profiling, we have tools like Lighthouse, and I would like to showing you the tools later in the process as well. Lighthouse is shipped by Chrome. Also, they support some things like a CLI tool. And what I recommend is set up the Lighthouse CLI really early in a project. So this prevents you to get reported performance issues later in the project and helps you already in development to get a performance profiling in mind. So also, if a customer or if I get into a new team, I run webpagetest.org. It's a really nice tool. It already helps you to get some waterfall diagrams. And what you see here, I have a page with 60 requests and many images. And most of the images have, you already see, okay, we have here a size of 280 to 320. So this means maybe I load too many images. And this tool helps you, if your site is already public available, to already guess where some problems happens. Also, it marks blocking requests with some mark here. So we already can guess by taking a look on the waterfall diagram, something goes wrong in this application. What goes wrong, we will see later. So, okay, first of all, I would like to share with you some state collation demo or state collation problem. So let's go in the debugging. Oh, there we are. So I have here a slow import and a fast import. And you would say, okay, the slow import is not so slow. But if I go now in the Chrome developer tools, and this is what I'm going to do now for you, and enable CPU throttling to 6 slowdown and say we are working on a mobile device. And now I hinting in the same speed as before the input. And you see, oh my gosh, this input is so slow. What happened to the input here? So first of all, let's go in the sources or in the profiling, performance profiling tab. Sorry, there we are. So I start now profiling and hint here. So, and what I get here is a result of many things. And what I usually do is I go here and see, okay, I run a key press event, and the key press event runs a couple of things here. And you see in the waterfall diagram, hey, something happened here. And we have here in before the end, a huge part of a slow component. So I know this name is now very obvious or now really good defined here. So what is the problem here to taking a look? I have here some state correlation problem because my form component is in this case the slow input. Here this is the H1 and this is the form input. It gets a reference outside of or it gets the state outside of from the parent component injected. And if I go in this component, it changed the state by reference. So this means React renders this component every time, and we get the slow component, what affects our DOM, maybe because there are third-party libraries included, maybe there are a huge thing happens to the DOM, and this takes time in React sometimes. So, and of course you can say, hey, let's use memo here to memorize the slow component. But in some cases, use memo will make the situation worse. What I can recommend here is think about where you set state. So, but there we go also later. So the second thing what we have, if we taking or reviewing this code here, we have here is a content page, and if it's not a if it's a content page, then we render also some slow slider or something like that. It's like, hey, we render a component what is partially rendered or not rendered maybe, and so for that reason, it's like very important to know, okay, which component is really used in terms of including. And I know you will not see it now in the coverage report because I already used the latest React Router version, what helps to improve the React performance much better than the old React Router. So it's already the alpha. And I'm also on React 18 already in this demo. So what I can recommend here is including some elements like this with a lazy import. This improves first your bundle size. Second, improves in some kind of impressions your total site performance. So to summarize the first thing, there we are. Take care where you handle state. There is a really cool diagram. It was posted on Twitter and also linked in React blog post by Kenzie Dodds. And what I recommend, take a look on where you set state, use rarely use memory if you can prevent it, and also think about state management in a more global scope here. This means if you have server state, maybe something like use Apollo, etc. is very helpful. So to summarize, we have lazy import, improves code splitting. We have use memo and use callback, what helps us to preventing us or save time when we have complex operations. We have libraries, what helps us to save state, like Apollo or React Query. We have the Lighthouse CLI for performance testing. This is really, if you take one thing from this talk, enable your team to get a performance mindset. Because if you detect performance issues before they go live, it's a really cool thing. So then we have also something like select less third-party libraries. It's a huge thing. You will see it later in the bundle size. I will go a little bit deeper in the bundle size as well, what you can do on optimized bundle size as well. And so then we have the latest thing, webtest.org is really nice tool. So web performance demo. Okay, still the same site, but same, but different. So what we have here, oh man, this site is slow. And now what I try or what I would like to use is start profiling and reload the page. And I go now here to force slowdown to not so affecting you here in what happened in the background. And if you're taking a look on how the elements jumping in this side, you will already guess, okay, what happened here. So the network tab is not so important, but we have here some layout shifts happened. We have some button to up things happen. And if I run now the Lighthouse tool, what I mentioned in the first slide, you also will see some things like, hey, what's going on here really? What are the recommendations? What I did here wrong on the page? Because Lighthouse is a really, really great tool and comes already with many, many suggestions in terms of how you can optimize your application. So what I really like about the latest release is the View Tree Map feature. The View Tree Map features allows you to taking a look on what things are included and how big they are. And you already see I have a 4 megabyte CSS here. I have 2 megabyte chunks, and I have some React development tools. So another thing is currently I run my application in watch mode. So this means if I go back to my application here and say, I don't want the development mode, I want to run build, it builds the application in terms of for a production system. So this is also something what you should have in mind if you analyze your application in developer mode. Some developer dependencies get injected by React, like tools what helps you to analyze the React performance. And now if I run a yarn surf, sorry, I get the same site, but on production. So this one. So, and now if I run the same thing with Lighthouse, you will see a total different result because developer tools are not included. And also now I'm not throttling so much. This makes also a thing quite different here. So if I go here to the tree map, you see our 4 megabyte CSS is shrink down to almost nothing because it's not listed anymore. It's included somewhere in some JavaScript and gets applied, and this is all. Really cool thing. I use a white here for this demo. It's some tool what helps to build really fast and simple JavaScript applications. They support React, Vue, etc. It's really cool for demo or for small applications, but it's not so really relevant if you want to go to PWA Studio or something like that. So anyway, you see we have a different behavior between our production build and our development build. So going back to the issues here, I see we have 1.5 second on our largest content footprint. So, okay, let's go. We have 28 seconds go, we lost, or no, 0.28 seconds we lost in terms of images. So we have, or surfing here, images from Unsplash, and this thing is included like source. So the red dot here already mark, hey, I have images where I forget to include height and width for the element. So if I go now to the same site, but in terms of performance, it's like you already see I don't have jumping elements here. I don't have images what are jumping around. And I also have less requests. So if I go here, I see I have now 20 requests. And if I switch this, I have one request more and one request more because every image is loaded lazily on this side. So this means I only load images what are really visible in view of the customer. And I know maybe this also affects the user behavior here or the user experience here. What I did on every page here is I added loading skeletons to already improve the performance in kind of how it works or how you already get a better user experience here. So if I reload the page, I get first these 3 elements, and it's now so fast because I still have 4G slowdown, but have throttling disabled. So if I go now here, you see, okay, I'm still in 4G and I get a nice user result. So let's go a little bit in code and see what I did here, because we have 7 minutes left and it's cool. Okay, first of all, I would like to share some code like the slow slider. And I use here React Slick. And I know React Slick is in terms of bundle size, maybe not the best approach. But React Slick provides me to have already some auto load and infinity load. And also, if I take a look on the fast slider, it's already support some things like lazy load. So there are 2 things to implement lazy load. There is a attribute called lazy load. What you can add on the images, it works only in modern new browsers like Chrome, Firefox, etc. Or you can go this way with lazy load from JavaScript here, and you are fine. So also what I did on the journey side is I added a lazy load to the travel grid as well. So this means if I go on the travel grid, and go then on the grid item, I have here a lazy loaded image. I use here now a library because I would like to support other browsers. Maybe you go with the attribute I will show in the latest slide. What is the attribute? How it's written? Should be loading lazy. So, and then I have here the slow image. And what I could add to this example as well is it's currently this example don't use source set as well. So there is a possibility to define a source set where you define different sizes for images, and the browser only fetch the right size for the current viewport or for the current customer. And this helps also preventing loading to huge images as well. So, okay, we covered add React components. And also one thing about coverage. There is a tool show coverage, and this is also included if you go in Lighthouse now. In terms of this was the wrong thing. In terms of if you go on the tree map, you already see, okay, I have use fetch data, what includes many unused code. So if I would like to know what happened here, I could go to the coverage report here, show coverage, and reload. And I get more details about what is executed and what is missing and which function is missing. And I can also use this information for development purpose, or see, okay, I have maybe included some library. Also, sometimes it's really helpful if you go on the network tab as well and see if is there something what takes really long. Also, what helps here is if you go here in the performance thing and go in button to up and go here, and you already get some information. Hey, user use fake demo data takes 90% of the total time in this site. This is very important if you go deeper in the React performance topic. And of course, React is really, really fast. Huge applications like Facebook are built by in React, but there are many slightly things what you could add, what increase your bundle size, increase your loading time. So these are the tools. Also, what I like to add here, the React tools, what are currently not available because I'm in production build, helps you to also to get a better understanding of which components are included. Also helps to track down events and state and things like what happens to my application, maybe to show you that really quick. I restart now development build, because if I'm not in the development build, my extensions are not included. So, and also I need to go to my React profile. So I want to restore it. So now you have here a profiler, and let's move it a little bit around. So, and make it smoothly bigger that you can see something. So also you have the same thing built in React profiler. So it also allows you to reload the application and see what's going on here. And if you stopped it, you already get some information. Okay, first of all, I render the app wrapper, and then I render this navigation. And sometimes it's really helpful if you go there and see, okay, I have a component what is slow, and you already see some things like that here. So we have 50 milliseconds are taking into account only for the slow component. So maybe I should memorize it. Maybe I should think about if is the state really right placed or something like that. And I have also some things like ranked and scheduling. This works only if you have React 18. For some reasons, it's and also only works if you export and import it again. So it's helpful in production build. And also you have here things like, I have here a provider and would like to know about props. I would like to know about which element is this in the DOM. So it's really helpful to have installed React tools. And so, okay. So let's go on the latest slide for today. So to summarize, we have loading skeletons, what helps to improve the loading time. We have lazy loading with the loading attribute. It's a modern attribute, as already mentioned. We have set height and width for preventing the layout shifting around. We have things like WebP, what helps to improve the image size. And one thing about CSS or JavaScript, if your main thread is blocked by some resource, things are maybe get blocked and rendered later. So think about images if you really need it for the first user experience or not. Add a source set to your application. And I'm really happy to already spoiler you here about server-side rendering for SPAs and React 18. I had the pleasure to play around with the new feature, and it's so promising. I tried Next.js or get PWA Studio working on Next.js, and it was like, oh, I don't get so much better performance with server-side rendering in Next. And then it was like I played around with SSR in React 18, and it was like, oh my gosh, this will be great. Hopefully this thing will be released soon, because currently it's in the beta. But the React team did a really great job. And everything what is green in the slides, I will share it later with you, is our links to blog posts, to specs. So if you, to make an example, it's a huge own topic where you can have a own talk. So hopefully I showed you everything what you need for your daily work as developer to find and define performance issues in your application. So now I'm open for questions. Thank you so much.
Lars, thank you so much for sharing information and knowledge with us. It's been a very, very interesting talk with information that you won't find anywhere else. The first question is from Roman. What tools do you use for measuring web performance, and what tools can you recommend for Magento developers?
As already mentioned, mostly I use the Lighthouse CLI, and we set up the Lighthouse CLI really early in some projects of us to measure the performance over time in new projects for PWA or for my own projects. I use Lighthouse so often to measure performance. And in terms, if you speak about backend performance, this is a really tough thing. I tried Blackfire, and Blackfire is really nice to find performance issues in your application. On the other hand, it's also really expensive in terms of licensing costs, etc. But if you have a huge performance problem, it's definitely worth to check out Blackfire and take into account. Yeah, of course, it's costly, but it's so powerful. And yeah, you could do the same with other tools, but you don't get the information about this query leads to a performance issue in PHP because you render 10,000 items. And this is helpful to find problems in your GraphQL API, to make an example here. So Also, what we use is some things like we're taking a look on the with some performance profiling tool. Netflix. I forget the name. There is a tool what is also shipped with the cloud. What helps you to running or running a watch on live systems. So this is available for PHP services as well, and we're using that on our live systems. But Lighthouse is the first thing what I would like to add if I start a new PWA project or new project.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, what problems have you faced when optimizing PWA?
Mostly it was in terms of we have a complex page where it was forgotten or forget to import complex components via lazy. So this means this affects the bundle size and also the LCP because this thing gets really loaded early in the page, and so the main thread was blocked for 2 seconds by this component. And this can happen really fast. So you include a third-party library, what includes many dependency without taking care which dependency they really want to have. And there's a really good picture in the internet about node hell. So you have dependency of dependency and dependency of dependency, and it's like a black hole. And you need to really take care. Bundletopia is a really good website. Before you include a third-party library, go on Bundletopia and check.
Awesome, thank you. The next one is from Philip. How does PWA match with Core Web Vitals? How can we assure that a PWA will pass the requirements? That's a question we hear a lot of these days.
Yes. And the answer is server-side rendering. I know it's still far away, and React applications has some small problem, like we need to load some JavaScript before we can render a DOM. This is how React or a React application works. So, and still in the web, we have many crawlers or many things what don't support JavaScript. So it's really nice to have already not an empty DOM body element and hydrating only with JavaScript. It's maybe better to have already some components what are really static, pre-rendered by some servers. And if you are asking about PWA Studio and performance, the latest sprint what the team did was focused on Core Web Vitals and how we optimized them or how we could optimize them. And we adding things like slimmer components, skeletons. So we replace the loading thing by skeletons. And there was a pull request where I removed or moved many things to lazy. So this also reduced the loading time much. And also we did some changes between libraries where we use libraries, and also we start preparing PWA Studio with for server-side rendering because we had some problems with window references. So if you use window in your PWA or React application, this thing will not work in server-side render page because there is no window where the server can interact to. So if you want to optimize your page for the future, taking care about window references. This is a really huge topic. We spend so much time removing window references from PWA Studio.
Awesome, thank you, Lars. Let's see. The next question comes from Daniel. What are the weak points of React from the web performance perspective, if there are any?
Weak points. I would say state management, but it's in all application. It's like if you don't know about React well and how it works, and maybe to make a little advertisement here, there's a really cool course from Kenzie Dodds, and no, I don't get sponsored that. It's really expensive. It costs $400. It's Epic React. And it opened my React knowledge in a new mind, or moved my React knowledge in a new mind, because he talks in this tutorial about really, really basic stuff, but in a really clear way where you can understand why some things happen in React and how you can preventing your application. And it's of course 20 hours, something like that. But you spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks before you finish it, because they shipped some demo examples as well, and you need 2 weeks, 2 full weeks to make this course. I did it, and it helped me a lot.
Incredible, indeed. Thank you. I guess we have time for the last question, and the question is: Magento PWA devs are currently in demand on the market. I'm thinking of moving to it, but hesitate because I don't know about 2-3 years perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a huge strategy question. I expect in the future we will definitely see more PWA application and on the current time. So PWA is definitely the future of modern web. So, but still there are companies or customers where don't need a PWA application because they have B2B use cases, or they stick to Internet Explorer 11 for the next 8 months because it's like and then they stick to old browsers and don't update them because of some scripts, etc. So it's really hard to say a general answer here. And also, if you are commerce focused, so this means you are focused in the higher market segment, and this is where I work mostly. So all our projects are huge projects, and we have one or two community versions at Hack Division. So I expect to see more AEM integrations in the future. And there are also things like SIF connector. So I would like to suggest you to learn PWA. I know it's a huge new technology. I was written down some blog posts on my blog, lasretic@.dev, where you find how I learned React, what was useful, and to make the story complete. I started 10 years ago as a backend developer in Magento, something like that, 9 years, 10 years, something like that. So, and then I get more and more in the front end space. And now I'm more like a full stack. I doing backend and front end. And it was really hard in the first time to learn the basic JavaScript, basic things, how functional JavaScript works, or how JavaScript works, because it's a new language, or was a new language. And very important is to have the knowledge of the foundations here. So if you go to or want to go to PWA, have in mind you have to learn a couple of new technologies, what maybe take some time to learn.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. Lars, thank you again for sharing your experience with us.